Was a girl running in our group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look out, buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
U.S. auto safety regulators told nearly 24 major automakers on Tuesday not to comply with a Massachusetts vehicle telematics law, saying it poses significant safety concerns. Do you think some lobbyists got to our boys? The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said in a letter to major automakers they must comply with a federal vehicle safety law and not with the state law that requires open remote access to vehicle telematics and vehicle-generated data. Because federal conflicts with and therefore preempts the state law, NHTSA expects vehicle manufacturers to fully comply with their federal safety obligations. I'm going to tell you like it is, boy. This burns me. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation, a trade group representing major automakers, has sued to block the law and has asked a federal judge to seek a temporary restraining order barring enforcement of the data access law. They warn complying with the data access law would require an automaker to remove essential cybersecurity protections from their vehicles. The group declined to comment Tuesday on NHTSA's letter. Now I'm here to tell you, and I've been a big champion of this right to repair, and doggone it, Chuck, this is not right. They can't tell these people that buy their cars they can't go anywhere else to get their car fixed.
Right.
They can't make you a captive audience, and they can't tell me as a technician in this modern age that I can't have access to the data in that car that I need to diagnose and repair it. That's just not fair. But that's what they're doing. And all of a sudden, Massachusetts and a couple other states were all ready to do this. And now, some U.S. senators or whoever, some lobbyist got to somebody. And they decided, no, we're going to make a law saying you can't give that information out. So what are they worried about? They're worried about cybersecurity? Those cars can be hacked into by anybody. Let's face it. Their cybersecurity there's no such thing as 100% cybersecurity.
Sure.
Because there's always somebody that can get around it. I mean, let's face it.
So, let me think. I don't want to get us a phone call here, but so if you think about the average age of our Congress and like our Supreme Court, I think the average age of our Supreme Court is like 104. One of the problems you run into is, and I've seen this for a long time now, is we have technologies, we have emerging technologies, we have technologies. I mean, like you said, everything's a double-edged sword. Technology can be great. Like everybody's talking about AI now and all the great things it can do and all the scary things it can do. But one of the problems that we see with this government is a new technology comes out. It's clear, we can talk about Bitcoin, for instance. Like, it's clear they don't understand it. And so what do people do when they don't understand something?
Vote it down.
They are against it. They shoot it down. They hate it. They're scared of it. And that's understandable. But think about, I mean, there's a lot of implications when you're talking about, you're pushing society forward, and some old people in Washington go, I don't understand it, so I'm just going to vote against it.
What is the federal government doing in my toolbox? That's what I want to know.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that, again, then what'll happen is we have a government that tends to be reactive and not proactive. So imagine what happens is they make these decisions, they stop these things from happening, and then later on, people like you come forward and go, hey, you're putting me out of business because of these decisions you're making today, but we can't reopen your shop, right? I mean, that's the whole thing, just whatever you talk about lockdown, you talk about any of these things, we can't, once a family business closes, they're not going to reopen a year later. It's over. You're going to get your fishing pole and you're going to go somewhere. Yep. So that's my whole point, is that when you make these decisions, you affect people's lives in ways that you can't predict, and then you can't go back and fix that.
Well, see, and the federal government's telling you where you can get your car fixed,
right?
What you're going to pay for it, because they have restrictions on the dealer for labor rates.
Or even the other thing would be they could make your bar. They call it the bar to entry. They can come to you and say, "Well, George, you're allowed to do that, but the diagnostic tool is $100,000." Do you know what I mean?
Well, exactly. That's what they did with the programming.
Right.
They made it so expensive that nobody could do it.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is they'll come to you and say, "Oh, George, your little shop's welcome to have the diagnostic tool. It's going to cost $100,000, and you're going to have 3 different versions of it.
You know,
and we're going to have to update it all the time." And
the crap they're playing with here it's just wrong. This is way too far for the federal government to be involved.
Right.
This is way too deep.
The other thing that becomes interesting is what happens when you have, we talk about like emission standards. We always talk about, everybody always has gone towards the California emission standard, right? Because California had the toughest emissions, so as long as you could pass California, you can pass every other state. What happens when you start getting scenarios where, especially when you talk about cybersecurity and things like that, what if California says we want it this way, and then Massachusetts says, well, we want it this way? You can't re-engineer your car for both places. And you can't rewrite the code.
California is one that has not the right to repair. They don't want you to have this information.
Right.
And Massachusetts was a state that wanted it.
But my point is,
so you can, if the federal government's behind you,
right,
and telling you can't do it, California's got to be smiling and say, well, see, we were right. You're not supposed to get that information.
But my point is, imagine if California has a law and Massachusetts doesn't. What are you going to do? You're going to lock down the car so that the guys in Massachusetts can't work on the car, right?
Yep.
You're going to do what California pushes. So that's I always try to explain to people. I said, there are decisions that are made far beyond your state legislature, your town council,
absolutely,
that affect your life. And so that's sort of my point, is that the decisions being made in California today are going to have unintended consequences for you tomorrow.
Yes, the CARB board, they call it, CARB. And Clean Air Relations Board, or whatever it's called, regulations.
But
board.
as you talk about, our cars are more fuel efficient and they're cleaner than ever before, and that's not good enough, though.
No, my Ford, I'm telling you, my Ford Edge puts barely nothing out the tailpipe, and a brand new one puts even less.
But that goes back to one of the other stories I want to talk about later today. Is there's been an update on, we talk about Elon and the Tesla model of direct delivery and things like that. So same idea is, direct delivery is one of those ideas where every state has different regulations on, can I just, order a Tesla online? And I remember mentioning to you before, we had that debate that was happening in Indiana a few years ago, where certain states were saying, well, if you're going to sell a car in our state, you need to have a service facility. So again, each state having its own set of regulations, and sometimes they go work in concert with federal law, sometimes they don't. How do you manage that when you're trying to sell a product in 50 states?
I read a op-ed the other day that was about this, saying that the legislators with their private jets, you would have to take every 2020 Edge.
Now you're going to get us a phone call on that. But you're right.
On the planet.
The people that are telling you need to make your car...
And they wouldn't make us one trip with that jet.
Right.
One trip with that jet.
Their meetings put out more carbon and CO2 than your car will in your lifetime.
I love how they go to a green meeting over in Europe somewhere, and they fly their jets over there, and they get in the Mercedes at the airport and drive it over.
But again, and they're the ones telling you need to cut down on your carbon emissions.
Well, you know what? I'm tired of it.
Okay, but so that becomes a question.
This is messing with my business.
Right, and it's messing. But again, what if you and every little car shop, every little repair shop in the neighborhood goes out of business? Now what happens? I have one choice. I have a Ford. I have one choice. I go to the dealer. If he wants to charge me $1,000 an hour to work on my car,
absolutely.
Now what? You know what I mean? Or
you have no choice.
Let's say I go there and have a bad experience, or it's like like with a doctor, you want a second opinion. Well, there's nobody to get a second opinion from because we're the only one in town that has the diagnostic tools.
Only one in town that has the tools. That's right.
Right. So that becomes a question. And I mean, ultimately everything that we talk about, whether it's right to repair, whether it's all these things, it comes down to the right of the consumer to make decisions about how they want to spend their money and who they want to spend their money with. Well,
here's another one they're trying to get involved in, and I almost agree with this, but I don't agree with them being in it.
Okay.
The U.S. lawmakers will travel to Detroit this last Tuesday. They did to press the CEOs of Ford, General Motors, to cut their supply chain's reliance on China, especially in electric vehicle batteries. What are they doing in my car business? The trip highlights the domestic pressures the administration faces as it tries to patch up frayed ties with China. Earlier Monday, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken reported some progress in those efforts after a 2-day visit to Beijing. He didn't do nothing. The companies didn't immediately respond for comment. But you know what, Chuck, this is another one. What are they doing in my toolbox?
Well, and so again, you go back to the idea of the federal government investing in lithium mining and things like that. And so now, even if you are not a fan of electric vehicles, the government is using your tax dollars to subsidize lithium mining and subsidize battery manufacturing.
And you know what? We're supposed to be striving for a green planet,
right.
And we're desecrating our entire planet with these mines for lithium and cobalt and manganese and all this other crazy stuff they need. We're desecrating the planet to make one electric car.
Right.
One electric car. How much did you save? That law, U.S. representative gets in the jet and they fly from California to Washington. You negated everything you did.
Right.
It's all gone. I don't understand what this deal is. I think I understand, and I'm not going to say it because that will get us a call.
Yeah, you do understand, and that's the problem. Is the question is we understand these things, but as we've talked about, even with the electric vehicle manufacturing, once the internal combustion engine goes away, you don't just turn that line back on 3 years later. Go, whoops, we made a mistake.
Yeah,
we need to make more.
We got to get rid of all these electric car building things and start building compression again, internal combustion again.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Right.
They're gonna kill the automotive business. We're gonna have some young people here. I tell you, these guys are 15, Chuck.
Are you guys 15? You guys are 15, right? Okay.
Yeah, somehow.
Well, I don't see it because they're making them bigger at 15 than they used to. Jeez.
Luke's tall. He's almost as tall as I am.
Oh yeah.
Him and he won't admit it. He's in denial.
Not me though. I'm aware.
He's short.
So you guys, we got to remember to talk into the microphone when you're talking. Go
He's
back and
short.
forth. Okay. So anyway, one of the things, they were asking me about the show, George. I said, well, so we talk about cars. We talk about all kinds of things related to cars and the future of cars. And so you guys are both 15.
Yeah.
So, which means that you guys will both be able to start working on getting your driver's licenses soon if you wanted to.
If I wanted to.
If you wanted to.
If I wanted to.
So that's the question.
Yeah, how come? Can somebody tell me how come young people today are not interested in getting a driver's license?
I don't want to be responsible for hitting a child.
Well,
that's why they teach you how to drive.
Yeah, they teach you how to drive so you don't hit anything.
I have bad grades in school. I don't want to have bad grades in driving school and then I hit a kid.
Well,
I think it's mainly fear,
of me hitting a
it might
child.
be like an anxiety thing.
You know,
it's like they're afraid.
So
talk
towards the microphone so we can hear you. Hang on, let Brandon talk for a second.
I think it's mainly a fear thing. I think kids are kind of scared of driving because they might hit someone or something. That's mainly my guess.
That's part of. I mean, I don't know about you, George. I hit a bunch of things when I first started driving. I used to back into things all the time, and I didn't hit any kids or anything, but I used to. It takes a little while to learn.
You do bump into a few things, but usually not people.
Right. Hopefully not.
Usually like a fire hydrant or a barricade or.
They don't trust me with lighters. They won't trust me with a 2-ton death machine.
Well, so this is the whole thing. So why do you think that many generations we all got driver's licenses when we turned 16 and we all drove, and now it sounds like a lot of people your age aren't wanting to get driver's licenses. So why do you think that is?
I don't get it. When I was 16, I couldn't wait. I went on my birthday. Oh my God, I had to go. It was just one of them things. I just had to be there. I had to get my driver's license. I had to get a car. And a girlfriend to go with it. That was the deal. I don't know. Why do you think you guys don't want to drive? I don't get it.
I don't know his opinion. I just don't.
It might be fear. I think I can see fear being a problem. I think Brandon's pretty right about that.
Well, cars don't look as cool as they used to.
Well, okay.
I give you that too.
So here's then the next question then is, so now we're on the verge of having self-driving cars like Tesla and things like that.
Oh.
So what if?
Trust that.
Okay, so what if you didn't have to get
on the way here? Did you not say, "Oh, the Tesla, like, it only goes 30 or it only goes the speed limit"?
No, we got stuck behind a Tesla and it was doing the speed limit, and I was not happy about that. But because Teslas, they do that. But so no, my point is that the technology is getting to the point where you will be able to get into a car and the car does the driving for you. It will happen sooner than later, and so even if you don't get a driver's license. What about getting a car or going on an Uber that doesn't have a driver?
Well,
that'd be scary, man.
You're scared
open the car doors, Hal. I'm afraid I can't do that.
But I'm saying is that you have an app for that.
Well, then the app gets taken over by an evil AI.
Well, and the Uber is going to run out of people to drive if nobody gets a driver's license.
Well, but that's the problem, though, is that if at a certain point there's going to be so many people not driving, everybody will need an Uber. You're right. There's not enough people to drive.
There won't be any drivers for Uber.
So now we need driverless cars. So how do you plan to get around? We don't have, like where we live, there's no buses.
I have strong legs.
Well, you can't. What about in the wintertime?
I have good legs.
Okay. Well, that's fine. But so think long term, though. What are you thinking long term? If you get a job and it's not close to the house and things like that. So do you think you never, do you want to just have other people drive you around? What do you think you want to do?
Well, I think it's eventually just fate. You're going to have to get a driver's license either way.
You're right.
But yeah, I think mainly it's just like, kids don't really want it because of fear, but eventually you will have to get your driver's license. It's destined, basically.
Yeah, you guys, you have driver's ed at your school?
I think it's separate. I think you have to do it.
Maybe.
So now they don't have that at school.
They don't have it in school. You have to go to a school for that.
A school for that.
Right.
Okay. They don't have the simulators. Remember the simulators in school? And
no, yeah.
That was after me. I didn't have a simulator.
Yeah, no, I don't think I did either. Oh, they just showed us the crash car and said don't drink and drive. So that's the whole point, is that you don't have to do it when you're 16 or 15 and a half. You start driver's ed. You could wait till you're 18 or whatever.
She can. My granddaughter waited till she was 17 or 18.
Because
she didn't want to drive.
Because there's a lot of financial obligations there, mostly that are falling on me. If you get a car and insurance and things like that, it's very expensive for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, but how convenient is it for you to say, "Hey, go pick up dinner"?
Right.
Well, usually I can just walk there.
You can't walk everywhere.
Yes, I can.
Okay, but that's the point. Is that it really?
He just walks anywhere.
He walks everywhere. But
I walk to construction.
But that limits you. That limits what you can do. Then you're limited to where you're leaving your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Then.
And dinner will be cold by the time you get it back.
If you walk at home in the middle of the winter, are you going to walk home with a pizza at 30 below zero?
Oh,
I got a microwave.
Well, we got microwaves.
Okay, so
ovens.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You put the pizza in the oven as soon as we get home.
Okay, so okay, but so that's the thing is, so how do you imagine if you are not ready to get a driver's license? How do you imagine your life moving forward? You're just going to
bike lanes, of course. Use bike lanes.
I want to disown him now. Okay, but that's my point, though. Is that what are you going to do if you don't drive? How are you going to? What do you?
My school is. I've walked to my school before.
But okay, what happens when you're done with school? What happens when you're done with all those things? What happens? Do you ever want to leave the neighborhood? It sounds like he doesn't want to leave my house.
That's what it's starting to sound like, Chuck.
So that's again. Nobody wants to leave.